Good morning, everyone. I want to start off by thanking Gary Sam for welcoming us and starting us off in a good way. This budget, like the two I've introduced before, wouldn't happen without the hard work of so many people. And so I also want to start by saying a huge appreciation and thank you to the dedicated public servants who've worked so hard on this project. As you learn as finance minister, when one budget finishes, you start the next budget the next day. And so they really have been working for a year on this budget. And so I want to express my appreciation to them, to all the staff who have organized Budget Day, a little like a wedding when it comes to seating and getting people in the right place at the right time. And it's taken a lot of people, again, to create today. So I want to express my appreciation to them. And thank you to all of you for being the first folks to hear about Budget 2019. Now, as most of you know, I have the good fortune to represent the community of Victoria Beacon Hill. It's a community that I've lived in, that I've grown up in, and that I've raised my family in. And in fact, for most of my life, I lived just a few blocks from here, in a big rambling house that was home to my family, an extended family which included dozens of foster kids. In our house, dinner was everybody sitting down together, and then after about 15 minutes, heading off to a cause, to help a neighbor, to help an organization, to do something to give back in the community. And I was never lectured. I lived with my grandparents and my mom, and we were never lectured about the fact that you should get involved and that you should help people out. It was just something that we lived every single day in our household. And so growing up, I saw firsthand that often what people need is a hand up to be able to access opportunity. And the kind of values that I grew up with, the values of caring, of opening doors, of recognizing that everyone has something to contribute, of living within your means, but also sharing what you have. Those are the values that matter to the people of British Columbia. But what I saw and what the people of the BC have seen over the last 16 years is that those values were often forgotten by the past government. We became a province that, despite thriving economically, allowed the people who power our economy to fall behind. People were told by the past government that they had to choose between a strong economy or investments in people. Well, the truth is we can and we must have both. And today I'm proud to present our government's third budget, a budget that is truly balanced, both fiscally and in its approach. As I go through the slides this morning, I'm going to start with a quick review of our previous budgets, talk about our current position today, the third quarter numbers, and then the specifics of Budget 2019. So within weeks of forming government, as you know, Budget 2017 update happened. We took the first steps to put people at the center of our government's work. And after 16 years, there was a lot of work to do. MSP premiums in this province have more than doubled, which collected an even greater share of tax revenue from the middle class. The housing market had spiraled out of control, making it nearly impossible for people to afford a home in the communities where they lived and worked. So we got started right away in tackling the big issues facing British Columbia. We invested over $1 billion in better schools for our kids and better health care that people could count on. We took immediate action on the overdose crisis. We raised income assistance for the first time in 10 years, and we eliminated tolls and cut MSP premiums in half. These were long overdue investments in the people who help power our economy. So Budget 2018, we then focused on three priorities: making life affordable, improving services that people count on, and building a sustainable economy with good jobs. And we took bold steps to address the housing crisis, probably the biggest issue that we heard from British Columbians on. We made the largest investment in housing affordability in BC's history, $7 billion over 10 years. We took on a speculative market by taxing foreign buyers, satellite families, and people with empty homes. And Budget 2018 also took an enormous step forward, making the largest investment in childcare in BC's history. We funded health care for seniors so they could age with dignity and respect. We launched new urgent primary care centers serving thousands of people in communities across BC. We froze and rolled back ferry fares and restored the BC Ferries seniors discount. And we invested in the roads, schools, bridges, and hospitals people need, creating jobs in every corner of British Columbia. So with Budget 2018, we made historic investments in people while balancing the budget over the fiscal plan. And as you can see from this slide, the results are showing. Our economy leads the way in Canada. The Ministry of Finance's forecast for 2019 has increased from 1.8% to 2.4%, and from 2% to 2.3% in 2020, compared to the first quarterly report in 2018. The economic growth outlook for 2021 is 2.1%, followed by 2% in both 2022 and 2023, in line with previous expectations. The forecast we're using in Budget 2019 continues to be below the Economic Forecast Council prediction, and this is just one level of prudence built into the budget, and I'll talk about those as we go along. So as I mentioned, BC is leading Canada economically, and private sector forecasters predict that BC's GDP will grow, as you can see, 2.4% in 2019 and 2.7% in 2020. Again, significantly ahead of other provinces. And other economic indicators continue to show strength. Employment numbers, for example, in January 2019, 61,900 jobs compared to a year ago. The gains were fueled by private sector job increases. Our unemployment rate has been the lowest in Canada for over a year, and wage growth was the strongest among all provinces in 2018, with an average weekly wage growth of 4.1%. We know that businesses are continuing to struggle to be able to fill vacant positions, which really highlights the need for our investments that we're making in childcare and in housing to be able to retain and to be able to attract our workers. In housing, again, as intended with Budget 2018, we're finally starting to see some moderation. And I say cautious because I am very cautious, but I think I'm cautiously optimistic when I take a look at the moderation we're seeing in all segments of the market. You're seeing single-family homes, you're seeing condos, you're seeing townhomes, all see prices moderate, and that's exactly the kind of approach that we've been looking for. And you still see housing starts remain well above the historic average over this past year. Retail sales continue to grow 2.3% during the first 11 months of 2018 compared to the same time over 2017, which again builds on the growth we've seen. And finally, exports, and again, looking at economic indicators, exports have continued to show resiliency despite all the global uncertainty, despite all the trade issues that have occurred and tensions that have occurred. We continue to see very strong numbers here in British Columbia, which really, again, underscores the importance of a diversified economy and diversified trade partners and trading relationships, which is something we'll continue as a government to focus on. So Budget 2019 also includes the third quarter results. So just a few key points to note. Compared to the second quarter, I think you certainly know, and I won't go into all of the detail, but you certainly know the challenges that Hydro and ICBC we continue to face with both of those Crown corporations. Compared to the second quarter, BC Hydro's net income is down $1.136 billion. Due to the write-off, you'll remember that as government, we provided resources to be able to look at writing off the rate smoothing regulatory account. And ICBC's income is down another $496 million since Budget 18, which brings the total loss of $1.18 billion for the year for ICBC. Now, steps are being taken, as you know. Minister Eby is taking some major steps when it comes to ICBC, but I think all of us, and I certainly as Finance Minister, feel some frustration at the fact that these changes didn't occur earlier and that we're faced with this kind of fiscal challenge in our budget. Disaster response is another one usually that people take a look at due to wildfires and floods, estimated at $938 million for the year, $60 million higher than the second quarter estimate. Refundable tax credits, primarily the film tax credits, are up $111 million since Q2. And you'll also see in the budget $375 million in priority initiatives, which will be funded through supplementary estimates. Now, I know some of you have been here for supplementary estimates. Some of you have been in the legislature for supplementary estimates. It'll be new to others. About a decade ago, legislation was changed in this province to say that while there was operating debt going on, supplementary estimates were not to be used. As you know, operating debt was eliminated. We eliminated the operating debt in British Columbia. We also have a very strong fiscal position and a larger surplus, and so we're moving forward with supplementary estimates. And again, you'll see the details in your documents. And so with all of those key points, the result is that in 2018-2019, our surplus is forecast to be $374 million. And certainly you will know that the past government ranked up surpluses simply for the sake of surpluses while not investing in people. We are looking at a balanced approach, as I said earlier, balanced fiscally, continuing to balance the budget with a reasonable surplus, but also making sure we invest in the people who, in fact, help build that strong economy. So the fiscal plan, as you can see, is balanced. Surpluses of $274 million, $287 million, and $585 million over the 3 years. And I mentioned prudence. We've built in a number of levels of prudence in this budget. Budget 2019 includes a forecast allowance of $500, $300, and $300 million across the fiscal plan. And we've also built in contingencies, $750 million, $400 million, and $400 million. And you'll see the $750 million, again, a caution around ICBC, important to make sure that we've got resources built in just as we continue to make the changes that need to occur at ICBC. You'll also see that the taxpayer-supported debt-to-GDP ratio, which is obviously a key metric used by credit rating agencies, also remains at about 16% over the fiscal plan. So, as I said, balanced fiscally and balanced in its approach. So let's move to Budget 2019 and where we continue to go. We're certainly in a strong position, as you've seen from the slides and from the economic indicators that I've already run through. It gives us an opportunity to be very deliberate and to be very optimistic as we look at how we chart our course from here with Budget 2019. And our focus in this budget is to create opportunities and new opportunities so people can reach their full potential. It really is, once again, about making sure that life is better for British Columbians. So the items that are listed here, I'll go over in the next number of slides so we can talk about them in the next detail. So starting off with the BC Child Opportunity Benefit. We really want to make sure that we have the opportunity for every child to thrive and to provide more help to families in raising those children. So I'm very proud that Budget 2019 introduces the new BC Child Opportunity Benefit. This really is a historic investment in the people of our province and puts dollars in the pockets of middle-class families. So starting in October 2020, the Child Opportunity Benefit is going to replace the Early Childhood Tax Benefit, and it will provide hundreds of millions of dollars each and every year to families with children. For the first child, the benefit is as high as $1,600 a year. For a family with 2 children, the benefit will rise to as much as $2,600 a year, and that number continues to increase for larger families. As you can see from this slide, we've compared the annual benefit and the changes with the previous early childhood benefit and the BC Child Opportunity Benefit. So the current benefit was only available and is only available to children up to age 6. The new BC Child Opportunity Benefit will support families until the child is 18 years old. That means that, again, once the benefit's in place, a family can receive as much as $28,800 from when the child is born to adulthood. Again, that's going to make a huge difference to families. With 2 children, that support could easily surpass $40,000 for the family. Anyone who's raised a child knows how transformational that kind of support can be. That will make a huge difference to families. Everything from putting food on the table to winter coats to school supplies. These kinds of dollars are going to make a significant difference in families' lives. And these slides show the difference again, between the current benefit. It's another illustration of the difference between the current benefit and the BC Child Opportunity Benefit based on 3 examples of family income, as you can see from the slide, $25,000, $50,000, and $80,000. Significant savings. And it's about $400 million a year that goes directly into the pockets of hardworking families. We're making sure that the support is going to those who need it the most, from middle-class British Columbians to those living in poverty. But our support for families doesn't stop there. We are delivering on our commitment. As you know, the previous government, in fact, doubled MSP premiums, raising taxes from British Columbians who were least able to afford it. And in Budget 2019, we move ahead with the complete elimination of MSP premiums. Starting on January 1st, 2020, families will save as much as $1,800 a year, which is a $2.7 billion tax reduction, one of the largest middle-class tax cuts in BC's history. And even when you account for the employer's health tax, as other provinces have done, moving MSP premiums to an employer's health tax, even when you account for the resources coming in from the employer's health tax, it's still a net cut of $800 million in British Columbia. So again, building on our commitments around affordability, Budget 2019 significantly reduces the tax burden for working and middle-class families. And you can see from this slide, with the elimination of MSP premiums and the introduction of the new Child Opportunity Benefit, once these programs are in place and once they're fully implemented, middle-class families are going to see the biggest reduction of their taxes in a generation. Families are going to save, as you can see, from the Child Opportunity Benefit, and that example gives you net provincial taxes for an average family of 4 earning $30,000 at a reduction of $1,700 compared to 2016. An average family of 4 earning $60,000 will see their net provincial taxes reduced by 60%, putting more than $2,500 back in the pockets of those families. And if we continue to expand this slide, if you looked at a family of 4 earning $100,000, net provincial taxes will be reduced by 22%. Once again, focusing on making life better for British Columbians and ensuring that we make life more affordable for the people in British Columbia. So enhanced supports. Many of you know that we finally this fall introduced a poverty reduction plan. We were the only province in all of Canada without a poverty reduction plan, and so it is a part, again, of our budget and our commitment to the people of British Columbia. Our government's already increased income and disability rates by $100 a month. That was one of the first things we did when we were elected. And today we're adding more support by increasing rates by another $50 a month, bringing the total increase to $150 a month or $1,800 per year. Now we know more needs to be done to make income and disability assistance more accessible, so we're also investing $26 million to make these benefits more fair and to respect people's dignity. This means everything from allowing people on income assistance to keep their cars, to be able to help them get a piece of ID they might need to be able to get a place to live or to secure a job. You'll hear more about this as the poverty plan comes forward in the spring with more specifics. But we also address some serious inequalities when it comes to caring for the most vulnerable, from kids in care to people living with disabilities. Community Living BC home share providers, the people who care for people with disabilities, will see their first increase to their compensation since 2009. Family caregivers, foster parents, will also receive higher support payments starting April 1st, their first increase in their support payments in over a decade. And I'm very proud to announce that continuing on the good work of Ed John, Grand Chief Ed John, and his work, we're also going to ensure that extended families, like grandparents, like aunties, like uncles, who support kids and keep them out of care, will finally have payments equal to foster parents. Again, that's going to make a significant difference when it comes to doing all we can to ensure that children get the quality care they need and don't come into care. So BC's leading the country, making sure that the housing market is providing homes for people, not a shelter for foreign capital or even worse, for money laundering. And we all know how critical housing is to anything in your life. So to help further this along, Budget 2019 invests $76 million more in housing to buy land and to build more modular homes for the people who are homeless and the services they need to get back on their feet. That's going to bring the number of modular housing for people in BC to 2,200. We're also making sure that we're helping people not lose their existing housing. So to provide security for renters who are at risk of losing their homes, we're establishing the first ever provincial program to fund rent banks in BC's history. This means that renters who are on the brink of eviction, they may have had an illness, they may have been not been able to work in a short term, can actually be able to get an immediate short-term loan because there isn't any benefit to any of us if those people who have affordable housing are thrown out on the street. Again, this is going to make a huge difference when it comes to supporting people and affordable housing. So as you know, we made one of the most significant investments in the history of our province with more than $1 billion in Budget 2018 to fund childcare. And at the center of this plan, we launched the Affordable Childcare Benefit, providing families in British Columbia with up to $15,000 per child per year so that everyone in our province can afford childcare. And we also delivered an immediate fee reduction for parents, bringing the total benefits to nearly $20,000 per child per year. We're also expanding the availability of quality childcare with the creation of 22,000 new licensed spaces around the province, which continues us on the path to a Made in BC childcare program. When the additional funding that is in Budget 2019 is included, funding increases in the childcare area from $182 million in 1819 to $366 million in 1920, $473 million in 2021 and 21-22. So in total, the government's going to invest more than $1.3 billion over the next 3 years in childcare, which again means tens of thousands of families are going to see a huge benefit and a huge support, and those children are going to get the best start in life. So by launching our childcare program and the BC Child Opportunity Benefit, we are focused on making sure that kids have the best start in life. But we know that the opportunities don't stop there. Creating opportunities to learn is critical, not only for our young people, but this is an investment, in fact, for our economy in British Columbia. So today we're delivering on our commitment to eliminate interest from all BC student loans. Students and young families with loans will save an average of $2,300 after graduation, so they can start their career off on the right foot. Instead of worrying about growing debt, young people can focus on learning, and graduates can put their energy into their next steps. Again, a critical piece for affordability and a critical piece for building a sustainable economy. There certainly is nothing more important to British Columbians than healthcare and education. I consider them the basics of our province and the basics of society. So just to begin with healthcare, we are already hiring new family doctors, nurses, practitioners, and clinical pharmacists to deliver better, faster medical care to people across BC. So these professionals will provide care to thousands of patients in every corner of our province. We're also building and improving hospitals. North Vancouver, Langley, Terrace, and Penticton, just to give you a few examples. We're investing in seniors' care with hundreds of new beds and expanding diagnostic and treatment options for patients. And that includes 37,000 more MRI exams and a new surgical strategy that reduces wait times. Budget 2019 builds on that work. Our budget includes funding for BC children and women's hospitals to enhance the services for women, children, newborns, and families. $105 million will support the BC Cancer Agency to increase the number of cancer-related surgeries and chemotherapy treatments. We're also continuing our work to tackle BC's overdose crisis and expand mental health services for British Columbians. As you know, one of the first things we did as a new government was invest $322 million to help stem the tide of the overdose crisis. And we're also getting to work to improve the mental health services that people count on. In my time as MLA, I've met with countless parents who are worried about their child's well-being, who had no idea where to turn. It's long past time that BC had a child and youth mental health system where parents can ask for help once and get help fast. So I'm proud to announce in Budget 2019, we're going to begin building that system with a $74 million investment. We're going to improve access to care and work to end stigma so that families can feel safe accessing the supports that they need. When it comes to education, again, as you know, it was a major priority, and we made record investments when we were elected government to achieve smaller class sizes, improve schools and classrooms, and give kids more support. In Budget 2019, that means over $500 million to ensure that our schools deliver quality education. That's on top of the work that we're doing to hire over 4,000 new teachers, including school psychologists and counselors. It's in addition to hiring 1,000 new education assistants to support children in the classroom. We're also investing in new schools, additions, and seismic upgrades, which mean that over 17,000 students have safer classrooms. And now over 11,000 children can enjoy new school playgrounds with our playground investment for schools. As we continue to work to create opportunities, we also know it's important to make sure that we're doing everything we can to address competitiveness in British Columbia. As I mentioned earlier, all of our statistics and all of our results are strong. We continue to lead the country when it comes to a 4.7% unemployment rate. And our strategy is also paying off by seeing wage growth accelerate to 4.1%, the highest rate in a decade. And once again, we're expected to lead Canada when it comes to growth this year. So in Budget 2019, we're moving forward with $800 million in business tax reductions over the course of the fiscal plan in partnership with the Government of Canada to boost our competitiveness. So this means that investments in processing, manufacturing equipment, and clean energy equipment can be written off immediately, spurring on investment, spurring on opportunities for businesses to expand and invest in our province. We've already, as you know, cut the small business corporate income tax rate from 2.5% to 2%, and as of April 1st this year, 2019, we're going to fully eliminate PST on non-residential electricity, which saves BC businesses $150 million annually. I think nothing is more iconic for British Columbians than our natural environment. It really is part of our identity and part of our way of life, fundamental to our health, to our recreation, to our industries, and to our future. So in December, working with our colleagues in the Green Party caucus, we introduced Clean BC. It's our climate action plan to put our province on a path to a cleaner, better future. We're reducing climate pollution by shifting homes, vehicles, and businesses away from fossil fuels towards clean BC electricity and other sources of renewable energy. With Clean BC, we are building a strong, sustainable, low-carbon economy for the future. We have invested in Budget 2019 $902 million for the largest investment in climate action in BC's history. This includes $41 million in incentives that will help families save hundreds of dollars a year on clean energy retrofits for their homes. We're investing $90 million to make electric vehicles more affordable, putting $6,000 in the pocket of any British Columbian who buys an electric vehicle. And we're also increasing the carbon tax relief for working and middle-class British Columbians. That means that families will receive relief of up to $400 per year starting this July. Central to our commitment across government to make life better for British Columbians is the work we're doing with First Nations to achieve true and lasting reconciliation. And our commitment to do that is more than simply words. In Budget 2018, we made a historic $50 million investment in supporting the First Peoples Cultural Foundation and First Nations communities to revitalize Indigenous languages. We also in 2018 became the first province to partner with First Nations communities to build and operate over 1,700 units of social housing on and off reserve. Today, we're taking another step forward. Budget 2019 introduces the most substantial revenue sharing agreement with First Nations in our province's history. This commitment means over $3 billion in provincial gaming revenue will be shared with First Nations communities over the next 25 years, including $300 million in the next 3 years. This agreement is a result of decades of work and advocacy by First Nations to address the need for stable, long-term funding in their communities. These funds will give an opportunity for First Nations to invest in new services and infrastructure, things like childcare, supports for new parents, housing, road upgrades, self-government, and economic development. And as I mentioned earlier, we're also finally giving the same supports to extended family as we do to foster parents, which will help keep kids out of care. We know investments are critical. We know building British Columbia is critical, and we are investing, in fact, in every corner of BC, and that includes rural and northern communities. As was announced this past weekend in Terrace, we've given $100 million in 1819 to benefit 26 communities in the Northwest and North Central BC to assist them with planning and capital investments. These communities have been advocating for years for better infrastructure. As someone who sat on the Finance Committee for a number of years, I can tell you that these communities every year would come and present about the need for infrastructure, about the need to be able to prepare for economic development. And we were really pleased to be able to provide those resources to get them started. We're also providing $50 million to expand high-speed internet, connecting businesses and people across the province in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities. And to help people get to work, to see appointments, and to see families, we also have added $21 million over 3 years to improve conventional bus services in 30 communities across this province. And that includes improvements in Handy-Dart in both rural and urban settings. And to keep commuters, truck drivers, and goods and services moving and safe, Budget 2019 adds $39 million to improve bridges and roads, and $3 million to enhance commercial vehicle safety. We also, to ensure that people and communities and businesses remain safe, invested $111 million in prevention, recovery, and resiliency work when it comes to wildfires. Now, I've mentioned a number of times the importance of investing in people and helping build a strong economy, because it's very clear that none of our work to support these local economies, or in fact to support economic growth in British Columbia, would happen unless we had people to be able to support that growth, unless we invested in people in British Columbia. And that's why you'll see in this budget that we're investing another $18 million to keep adult basic education and English language learning programs tuition-free. And this has made a significant difference. We're opening the door to thousands of people who want to upgrade their skills, and this provides them the opportunity to do that. We're also supporting 2,900 science and tech spaces at post-secondary institutions across the province. We're investing $5 million over the next 3 years to train more nurse practitioners, specialty nurses, and other healthcare professionals. And we're also providing in this budget $14 million in new funds over 3 years to transform employment standards, protections, and enforcements, because everyone deserves a safe place to go to work. As well as supporting good jobs across our province, our government has also facilitated the largest private sector investment in Canada's history with LNG Canada. This project is going to produce one of the cleanest LNG facilities in the world, and it will generate funds for critical services while meeting our responsibilities to partner with First Nations and protect our clean air, land, and water for generations to come. This will create opportunities for British Columbians and their families and their children in communities they call home. That includes 10,000 construction jobs and 950 permanent jobs. So for far too long, we've seen resource communities neglected, and we certainly have seen that in particular in the area of forestry. We know how important it is to revitalize that industry, So we're working to rebuild a strong, healthy forest sector with a $10 million investment for coast forest sector revitalization. We're also investing $9 million to implement the new environmental assessment legislation that was passed in November 2018. And to support the people working in the mining industry, we're investing $20 million to ensure a fair, independent oversight body that will protect workers, the environment, and communities. And we're also making the mining flow-through shared tax credit and the mining exploration tax credit permanent, which will again drive investment in British Columbia. So to build this strong economy, to make sure that we're investing in communities and in people, we need a strong foundation. And we're building that foundation with our capital plan, a $20 billion investment in infrastructure and communities throughout the province over the next 3 years. And each one of these projects, schools, roads, healthcare facilities, housing, and post-secondary institutions, will create and support tens of thousands of jobs and training opportunities across British Columbia. And we're doing that work by keeping our debt affordable. Our taxpayer-supported debt-to-GDP ratio is forecast to remain near 16% over the fiscal plan period, and our debt to revenue is forecasted to remain below 90%. Again, balanced fiscally and balanced in its approach. So to summarize, British Columbia is thriving. We have a balanced budget across the fiscal track. We're the only province with a AAA credit rating from all 3 major international rating agencies. But we will never have a truly prosperous province unless everyone in British Columbia can share in that prosperity. Under the last government, health and education were underfunded and neglected. Fiscal mismanagement turned ICBC and BC Hydro into fiscal messes, and money laundering and speculation in the real estate market was allowed to take root in our province. There's no shortage of work to do, but we're doing the heavy lifting to put BC back on track where people can see some hope on the horizon. We know the problems we face aren't going to be fixed overnight. But if we look back on the progress we've made and the next steps in this budget 2019, the results are showing. Young people are starting to get a chance to begin their careers without being saddled by ever-growing debt. Families are getting the supports they need so they can afford childcare and give their children the opportunities that they deserve. Businesses have the assurance of a thriving economy, a balanced budget, and some of the lowest personal income taxes in this country. And future generations of British Columbians know that our province will have done our part to fight against climate change. There's a long way to go, but we're continuing our commitment to make life better for all British Columbians. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you for questions in a little bit. Thank you.